Hi, it's Lee from colouringqueen.net and I hope you're all doing well today. We are all well. Last night we had a massive storm. The thunder and the lightning was unbelievable. I've never heard it so loud, to be honest, but Buddy and Millie were not worried at all, so I guess I was the only one that jumped every time there was a big bang. But anyway, after the massive storm, today is unbelievably hot. It's like being stuck in a sauna. It's heat wave weather with over 37 degrees, which is about 98 in Fahrenheit. And I've got all the lights off in the house to try and keep it cool, as well as the windows closed, curtains closed, you name it. And of course, the aircon on where Buddy is laying underneath it and Billy and Millie. But I can't run the fan when I'm recording, so I'm super keen to get this recording done so I can go and cool down a bit. And I know some of you across the pond are trying to warm up, but here I am cooling down and trying to dream of having a swim tonight. But anyway, after that big storm last night, it completely ruined my garden. But I mean, on the plus side, I don't have to water the garden today, but it pelted my flowers and they're actually looking pretty sad at the moment. But hopefully, in a few days, I'll perk up again and look cute in time for Christmas. So today I'm colouring from the Mice Before Christmas colouring book, and that's for my Grave Ember colour along, and I am colouring grayscale colouring pictures for that, and I'm using the Aldi pencils for this. Now Aldi is a supermarket, I'm not sure if everyone has it, but these pencils were like 10 Australian dollars and I've had them for a few years. They get them every year when they have their like art special, and been keen to give them a try. They don't really have as much pigment as I would like, but keen to give them a try. And the picture is printed out on my own paper, so I'll put a link to that below. I got it from Officeworks. But anyway, I feel like I've done pretty well for me getting through all these colour alongs, one every month, plus the 6-month long one for this year. But next year I have to say I'm not going to do a monthly colour along anymore. I just need a bit of a break from it. It's actually a lot of work putting together the videos and everything else, so I think I'm going to have a bit of a break from it, and I will have 2 colour alongs and I'll announce them soon. But yeah, I think I'll just have a bit of a break from doing the monthly ones next year. But thank you to everyone that has joined in this year for all of them. I know how much work it is, and it's great when you can join in a few colour alongs and really take part. Anyway, let's get on to today's colour and story, because it's coming up to Christmas and I thought we'd have a Christmas story. And I don't know about you, but around here there's a spattering of houses that have put some really great Christmas decorations up. There are some houses that really go all out, covering every inch of the house and yard with Santas and snowmen and sleighs and all sorts of things, even llamas. So there's lots of lights, and some have a wishing well to donate to charity for. Some have Mr. and Mrs. Claus giving out lollies or candy, as my friends across the pond would say. And we often actually take a drive around this time of year and we check out all the houses, because we're kind of big kids as well. Actually, on that, David brought me home last night a Minnie Mouse ornament, Christmas ornament, and she's holding this gorgeous candy cane. It's super cute. And also a 12-day of Christmas at Disneyland where you open them up and every day you get a Disneyland Christmas bauble. But I digress. We often look at these decorated houses and we really admire the spectacular displays every year. And we always say that we're going to do something next year, but so far we haven't even put the Christmas tree up. And I did go yesterday to look for some Christmas decorations for the house, but I think kind of because I want to move houses, I don't really want to get anything for this house. I kind of want to get something for the next house, and I really don't know what to get. And it's kind of overwhelming, the choice, and sort of, I don't want to be rushed on choosing a theme. So I think it'll be when we move to another house that we'll do an all-out decorating, or at least some decorating. But anyway, the houses that do have these over-the-top displays, they get a lot of traffic. Either families walking past to have a look at them, or most of them have music that syncs to the whole display, and often there are carloads of people, and it's a real thing. Families come out, and even, people without families like us, we come out and we look and really enjoy these displays. But getting a car park spot in some of these streets, it's impossible. And sometimes they are such big events around here that there's even ice cream trucks going past or stopping, so people can buy ice cream and look at the display. And sometimes they've even had to barricade off some of the streets, like close them off to anyone other than people that live there, local residents only, because there is just too much traffic. But even that is absolutely nothing compared to today's story of a family that really, really, really loves Christmas. So today's story is about Jeremy and Christy Morris from Idaho in the US. And as I said, they really love Christmas. I think, though, that Jeremy obsessively loves Christmas. The family lived in Hayden in Idaho, and Hayden is named after the beautiful Hayden Lake. It's a small town with about 16,000 people, and in that small town the Morris family lived. Jeremy, his wife Christy, and their children. And he loved Christmas so much that, get this, he named one of his sons Nicholas after St. Nicholas. So that's commitment to Christmas. So Jeremy has loved Christmas since he was a child, and at an early age he was taught how to decorate the Christmas tree with lights, and then gradually this went from decorating the tree to the house, and it became his job, and he absolutely loved it. When you see this guy, his face lights up when he talks about the joy of Christmas. And every year he would do more and more for his family Christmas decorations. And sometimes the things that we love as a child, we often give up or we move on from them when we're older. But not this guy, not Jeremy. After finishing law school and marrying Christy and buying a home, he got out the Christmas decorations that he had been collecting for 5 years. And he started making his Christmas obsession with decorating bigger and better, because now he's got his own home. He can really get into it, and he's got his own family. And he's like a big kid with the same enthusiasm that kids have and the same sentimentality that adults have. He has a ton of decorations, shipping containers full of them, thousands and thousands of lights, and you name it, decorating wise, he's got it. Many of those decorations he's accumulated over the years by himself, saving up and buying them, but also from family members, and there's a lot of nostalgia caught up in these decorations as well. Now, this picture-perfect family decided in 2014 that they were going to make a spectacular Christmas display. And while others were thinking about Halloween, Jeremy and family were getting the house ready for Christmas. His dream was to cover his house in decorations and lights. And his dream kept expanding. Jeremy was constantly thinking of new things that he could do to make his Christmas house decorations bigger and better. There was a cotton candy machine, hot chocolate, a choir singing carols, a charity box. You can't have a nativity scene without camels, live camels that is, a professional mandolin player, volunteers dressed as Santa Claus, Rudolph, Frosty, elves, the Grinch, and Clifford the Christmas dog. This house was so decorated, It seemed it should be its own event. So that's what Jeremy did. He made it an event and he posted it on social media as an 8-day spectacular. And his wife just sat in the background going, how much is all this going to cost? Like, think of all that cotton candy and those hot chocolates being given out and sweets for the kids. And, of course, the cost of decorations, lighting, electricity. I mean, this is a lot. And it was going to cost a whole lot more and not just money. So about 900 people responded to the event on social media, saying that they were interested in attending. But in the end, thousands turned up, estimated 5,000. I don't know how accurate that is, but they came from all over, from Washington and even Canada for a look-see. And people were loving this beautifully decorated house and the amount of effort that had gone into setting the scene for this Christmas spectacular. It had 200,000 lights on it, and it was only a small home. But not everyone was loving the Christmas display. Turns out the city classed the display as an event, and as such, that would need a permit. And Jeremy felt that he didn't need a permit because it was a Christmas miracle. Not in any law book I know of, but it did make the couple think hard about their Christmas plans for the next year. And they decided that, of course, they wanted to go bigger and better. But to do that, they would need a bigger house. And so for that, they also didn't want to worry about city permits. So the new house would need to be outside of the city jurisdiction. So the couple immediately started looking around for not only a family home, but one that would be an ideal canvas for their Christmas decoration vision. And they fell in love immediately with a house in Westhaven Estates. It was 2 stories with a long driveway, a block from the road to the city limits, making it super easy for people to access. The house was located in a small, peaceful neighbourhood. It's a type of place where kids ride their bikes on the street, neighbours talk to each other, and they even socialise together. The place where people are friendly and it seems idyllic, where people actually care about each other and they enjoy spending time together. The area, though, is in a homeowners association, and that has a number of rules that govern the area. If you're in Australia, think of this as like bylaws in a strata development or a community title. So before committing to the purchase of the house, Chris put on his lawyer hat and he had 2 other friends who were lawyers go check out the rules of the HOA. And their number 1 priority was to see if their Christmas spectacular could go ahead without breaching any of the HOA rules. Now, after ploughing through all the pages and pages of rules, they felt that they could. But Jeremy also wanted to get pre-approval from the HOA before finalising the purchase of their home. So in 2015, Jeremy rang the president of the HOA and let them know that they were planning to move to the property and that they have this annual Christmas fundraiser. Now, the board of the HOA met in response to that phone call, and after that meeting, it seemed clear to the people on the board that this display, based on the online videos that they've seen, is huge. And looking at that, the HOA decided that they wouldn't allow it. And they let Jeremy know, and this did not go down well. He informed them that he was going ahead with the spectacular and he wasn't going to ask for their permission. The HOA protested and they said that the display was in violation of their rules that prohibit homeowners from increasing traffic or putting up excessively bright lights on their property. And the HOA decided that they better make this official. So the board fiddled about with a letter to be sent to Jeremy confirming their decision. Now, a lot of drafts were done on this letter, and it went to numerous people who all had a little bit of a go at it and made little alterations or suggestions. And then it was ultimately sent out to Jeremy in March of that year. Now, it seems like it could have done with a little bit of a fine tuning, but it is what it is. Now, the Morrises received the letter warning that the Christmas light show they wanted to put on could lead to expensive litigation because it would break neighbourhood contracts regarding lighting, property uses, sound, and traffic. Now, one line in that letter particularly led to some hostility, and the line is, "I am somewhat hesitant in bringing up the fact that some of our residents are non-Christians or of another faith, and I don't even want to think about the problems that could bring up." And that was in the letter from the HOA. Now, Jeremy responded with not any legalese that I've ever heard of, but just one word, which was nuts. Now, throughout this time, Jeremy had a number of phone calls and text messages to the president of the HIA. Sometimes there were 10 a month, and this is a voluntary position. And after a while, the president had enough and ultimately resigned because the number of calls and messages from just Jeremy was actually getting overwhelming for her. Now, in the meantime, the Morris family completed their purchase of the house and they moved in. Christy was hoping to bake cookies and get to know the neighbours, and she had dreams of this beautiful, caring and sharing neighbourhood. But that wasn't to be. The neighbourhood gave them a wide berth. And Jeremy, in the meantime, was asking neighbours if they were going to take part in his Christmas display, kind of putting them on the spot. And when they declined, he often reminded them that he was a lawyer. Now, unbeknownst to the neighbours, Jeremy was also recording many of their conversations without their consent, and he'd also begun noting any violations in the HOA, particularly those that involved members of the board. He would note down every violation and often take pictures. So the number of dogs that you could walk. If you were walking 3, you were only meant to walk 2. The type of driveway material that was being used. Any breach of HOA rules that he could find, he was noting down and taking pictures of and adding them to his naughty list. In September of that year, the neighbours all noticed Jeremy had started decorating for Christmas. He was putting lights up on the roof, and as well as the neighbours, the HOA noticed as well. And they sent off a letter to him in October stating that they would take legal action if he proceeded with this Christmas fundraiser. Now, this turned out to be an empty threat, as they didn't take the action then, and the Morris family ended up putting on their Christmas spectacular. So the HOA decided that they needed to get their own lawyer, and they did, and they sent a letter giving him 10 days and pointing out all the various laws in the HOA that the Morrises were in breach of. The Morrises in turn argued that the HOA was displaying a bias against their religion, and this was based on that part of the letter that was originally sent to the Morrises. Now, in between both the neighbours and the Morrises, they both felt aggrieved. Both sides alleged harassment, threatening behaviour and the like, and things were certainly not amicable. And to be honest, they were a wee bit frosty, and everyone gave the Morris family a big leeway. No one wanted to be their friends. And in fact, some of their church friends and whatnot had even advised them not to buy in the HOA area initially, but they went ahead and they purchased, as is their right. Now, it seems that this would have been a good time for both of the groups to sit down together and maybe nut things out, perhaps get some mediation and try and work through a solution. But this didn't happen. By 2017, things came to a head. Despite the objections of the HOA, the Morris family had put on the Christmas event in 2015 and 2016, and people came by the busload to see the display. And of course, they wanted to do it again, bigger and better. And at the end of it, Jeremy actually promised at the end of 2016 that he was going to outdo himself next year because the neighbours deserved it. Now, Jeremy claimed that the actions of the HOA were discriminating against them on the basis of their religion, and he actually called in the media to give them his point of view. This neighbourhood dispute escalated from local news to national news and then to world news, and of course social media went off, with most backing Jeremy that people had a right to do what they want on their property. And not only that, the HOA decision was discriminatory against the Christian religion. And he's told reporters that this Christmas show that he puts on was actually his calling. It's like his ministry. And he sees putting on the display as a reflection of his faith. Now, the Christmas display featured lights all over the house. The roof was multicoloured and every inch of the house is lit up. And as well as the lights, there's Christmas trees, reindeer, camel, a live nativity scene, over 200,000 lights, a cross that's lit up on the front lawn, you name it. So the neighbours were not happy with the influx of visitors. And because of death threats that the Morris family had received, the security was now part of this spectacular, and this was offered by the 3%ers group as well as bodyguards and other security. Now the quiet suburb now had the unusual sight of a Christmas display that was guarded by armed men. Both sides were making all sorts of claims against each other. There were fake accidents, throwing snowballs, harassing visitors, death threats, you name it. But in 2017, that's when things really came to a head, because Jeremy sued the West Haven HOA in the District Court of Idaho, and he was asking for $250,000 in damages. He claimed the HOA discriminated against his family based on his Christian religion. And he also wanted to be de-annexed from the HOA, meaning he didn't want the rules of the HOA to apply to the property that he owned. Now, the HOA countersued with the attorney for them, stating that he felt that Jeremy had always planned this. He'd always planned on suing, and he'd sort of contrived to set the HOA up for a lawsuit based on discrimination from day one. And the HOA denied that they were discriminatory, and they stated that the display violated a number of rules, including not having livestock on your property, excessive lighting, traffic, congestion, and so many more I can't mention. The case went to court and it was decided in 2018 by a jury unanimously that the Morris family had been discriminated against, and they were awarded $75,000. Now, that was $60,000 in compensation and $15,000 in punitive damages, all up totaling $75,000. But that wasn't the end of the matter. In 2019, the judge reversed the decision made by the jury. This time, he found in favour of the HOA, and he actually ordered Morris to pay $112,000 in legal fees to the HOA. And the judge said an ordinary reader would not interpret the letter sent by the HOA to Morris as discriminating on the basis of religion. That part of the letter that related to discrimination read, "I am somewhat hesitant in bringing up the fact that some of our residents are non-Christians or of another faith, and I don't even want to think of the problems that could bring up." The judge said an ordinary reader wouldn't see that as discriminatory on the basis of religion. He also found that Jeremy Morris's behaviour, especially with recording those conversations, was aggressively confrontational, and he ordered an injunction which basically is a stop on having any more Christmas events. Jeremy alleged that there was corruption and he filed a complaint of judicial misconduct. I don't know how that one panned out. And in April of 2019, Justice Windmill wrote in his decision that the plaintiffs have failed to set forth facts that are legally sufficient upon which a reasonable jury could conclude that the Homeowners Association violated the Local Fair Housing Act. He set aside the jury award of $75,000 and he replaced it with just $4, comprising $1 for each of Jeremy Morris's claims. They also did not grant the request for de-annexation, and they permanently denied hosting a Christmas program that violates the HOA terms. Now, Jeremy Morris did say that he was going to appeal this decision after it was released, but I don't know what happened with that. The last thing I read about it was a non-profit organisation called First Liberty Institute was filing an appeal in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on behalf of Morris, and they are a group that focuses on defending religious liberty, and they were basically filing that appeal on behalf of the Morris family. But I don't know what the status of that appeal is. Now, at the end of 2019, I think it was, Jeremy posted on Facebook that he and his family plan to move to a new neighbourhood, saying big plans for our Christmas show as soon as we move out of this anti-Christian HOA. Now, apparently the family is not only leaving the neighbourhood, the most recent thing that I read after that was the family is planning on leaving Idaho. This was on a Facebook post that Jeremy made and also on a YouTube video. And the family saying that they were disappointed that they didn't receive support from the community, particularly religious and political groups. And originally, Jeremy, according to his parents, had some political aspirations. And as well, they found that there was a lack of joy in the neighbourhood for their Christmas spectacular fundraiser. And although he sounds a bit bitter by the whole experience, I think it would be hard for this guy to lose that Christmas cheer altogether. Anyway, a few different places were mentioned that they might move to. Maybe Florida, Nashville, Texas, Tennessee. Who knows? Christmas Spectacular might be coming to a state near you. As long as it's not in a HOA, I guess. So I'd love to know what you think of this case. And I'd also love to know if you've started Christmas decorating yet. And if you ever did see this display, I'd love to hear more about it. And if you do want to see pictures, etc., you can catch up with Jeremy. He's also known as the Christmas Lawyer on his YouTube channel. Or he has a website of the same name. There is also a documentary that you can watch made of this very bitter legal dispute called The Fight Before Christmas. It was made during the pandemic and you can watch that online as well, and you can really get an idea of how big this Christmas display is on there, as well as how much this family loves Christmas. But more importantly, you will also get to hear the point of view of all the neighbours and the other interested parties that were interviewed for this documentary. So yeah, I'd be interested in knowing what you think. I've got a pretty firm view of this case in my own mind, but I would love to know what you think about it. Until next time, that's it from me. Stay safe and happy colouring and happy Christmas decorating if that's what you're doing.